Yo, what is up everybody, it's Jetty Gray here and welcome back to another Naruto reaction video here today. And today we have yet another interesting hypothetical matchup video by the Grade 6. And as you can tell what title this is, Minato versus Pain is not a fair fight, the real winner. So folks, it's safe to say that this specific matchup is commonly debated within the Naruto fandom and discussed throughout the fandom as well, and rightfully so. Both of these shinobis have some of the highest reputations within the verse and the fandom. They have their own legacies, and they both have very impressive feats to show for their caliber and prowess as far as them being shinobi is concerned. So, however, to preface my reaction to this video, I think the arguments for Minato are much better compared to the arguments for Pain, right? So, for the sake of discussion right now, let's discuss Hokage Minato versus the Six Paths of Pain, right? Hokage Minato scales above the speed of the fourth Hokage, who is stated to be the fastest shinobi on Earth post Minato's death, right? So he scales above someone whose full speed is bare minimum relativistic to the speed of light, right? And he's the fastest shinobi on Earth. There is no other shinobi that is as fast as him. So just from simple transitive scaling, you could simply say Minato is faster than Pain, right? He's faster than the Raikage, who's faster than all other shinobi until KCM when Naruto comes around, right? Hence, Minato is faster than the Six Paths of Pain. That's one great argument you can make. Another argument you can make is when Naruto was combating Pain, or more specifically, when he was going on a rampage with the Nine Tails, and Minato came in to aid him to avoid the Nine Tails fully re-emerging, he told him Pain isn't the real threat. Obito is, right? And Obito was someone that he defeated us when Obito was a teenager, specifically, right? He was able to be triumphant over Obito. He told Naruto the real threat is the man with the orange mask. It's not even this guy. This guy's strong, but Obito, or the man with the orange mask, is the real threat here. So that's the main threat that you should be worried about, Naruto, right? So that's what he told him, implying some scaling that you could deduce, right? You can say that Minato was implying superiority over Pain by saying the man with the orange mask is the real threat, which to us means, or at least what we can deduce, is that Obito is superior to Pain. Overall, as a shinobi, he's a superior shinobi, right? He is the superior shinobi. So those are just some arguments that I'm going to preface here before the reaction, and my prediction is that 6 will probably say Minato will win this fight as well. But yeah, I am very intrigued to see what he extrapolates, like he always does, from the canonical literature, what rational deductions he makes, what rational inductions he makes based on the canonical literature he observes, and what he extrapolates from that canonical literature. So I'm very intrigued for it, like I said. But before I begin, anyways, greatly appreciate it. Hit that like button, turn on bell notifications, stay updated with yours truly. And if you're new and you enjoy Man, you mess with the kid, make sure to hit that sub button, because once you do, you become part of the family forever. But let's not waste any more time, screen. Let's see what 6 says today.
The fourth Hokage versus the leader of the Akatsuki. I found this matchup to be pretty interesting, considering how both Minato and Nagato were Jiraiya students, but they each went down diametrically opposed paths in life, with Minato being hailed as a savior, dying to protect his family and village, and Nagato, who crushed the ninja world under his boot as the leader of the Akatsuki, before later dying trying to correct his mistakes.
Right.
Both were thought by Jiraiya to be the child of prophecy before their untimely deaths. Both had unprecedented levels of natural talent and skill.
Correct.
And both left a lasting impact on Naruto, the main character, through the lessons they taught him. But who wins? For this, I'll primarily be looking at Minato during his days as the Yellow Flash, as well as during his time as the fourth Hokage, and comparing him to the Six Paths of Pain, as well as Edo Nagato at the end. I won't be including KCM Minato, since he would just destroy any form of Nagato.
Of course.
And most people are smart enough to realize that without an explanation.
Exactly.
On that same note, I won't be including Nagato before he got crippled, as he scales absolutely nowhere. All he's done ever solo at that point was beat some fodder Rain Village Jonin, and it's not even clear to what extent he could use the Rinnegan at that point.
Correct.
So I'm not going to sit here and speculate about how strong he may have been all the way back then.
That's fair enough.
As many of you could probably already guess, I will be mostly explaining why Minato wins. This channel is literally a Minato respect thread, so I hope there won't be any big surprises there. I'll also go over a few points for Nagato too.
So
Right.
with that out of the way, let's start things off by talking about their stats. So the first thing I want to go over here before we get started is one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding Minato's scaling, especially when it comes to Jonin Minato. It's what Killer B says about Sasuke right after his fight with him and the rest of Taka. In the manga, B simply surmises that Sasuke was the toughest opponent he's ever fought, and while this could be and probably is just in reference to the Amaterasu that Sasuke had forced B to flee with, the anime version of this statement is a lot different. In the anime, B said that Sasuke was one of the 2 toughest people he'd ever fought, which then obviously leaves room
It's an
for
important
Minato
distinction.
and is much more consistent with the information we're given later.
Correct.
So ultimately, this statement is really vague even without the anime, but if you use the anime here, it goes nowhere. The next and probably the actual biggest misconception surrounding Minato, especially in his younger years, is how he compares to the 4th Raikage A. Many people will often misinterpret the statement about the potential of the lightning cloak, a technique used by many other people like Killer B and the 3rd Raikage, in an opinionated statement from C, who would have been around 6 to 10 during the 3rd Ninja War, to argue Minato is no faster than A. This is simply incorrect, seeing as it's been stated several times even by A himself that Minato was by far the fastest shinobi, and the weekly manga even uses a flashback from when they were Jonin to say that it had always been the case. Another piece of information that supports Minato being faster than A is the fact that he was directly compared to KCM1 Naruto by multiple characters like Killer B and Tsunade when he used body flicker to dodge V2A's fastest attack.
Correct.
This brings us directly into the next point concerning Minato's speed, since Jonin Minato is faster than V2A, who was physically blitzing a much stronger Sasuke during the Kage Summit than the one who fought B. This is also one way to refute the earlier statement, but this also should be enough to say that even during his Jonin days, Minato was much faster than Pain. The
Correct.
main reason for this is the fact that during the Kage Summit, it is heavily implied by the data books and other characters like Obito that Sasuke and Naruto were around the same level, meaning the MS Sasuke who couldn't keep up with V2A is just as fast as Sage Naruto, who was evenly matched with Pain during their fight in terms of speed only. Obviously, Pain is much stronger than Naruto,
Yeah.
with many
Correct.
statements saying as much. This means Minato, even back during his days as the Yellow Flash, would be more than capable of overwhelming the 6 Paths of Pain with speed,
Agreed.
like he did many of his other enemies in the 3rd Great Ninja War.
Agreed.
After the end of the 3rd War and Minato's appointment as the 4th Hokage, he arguably grew even stronger. The data book directly implies this, saying he continued to foster and hone his abilities in battle even after becoming the Hokage.
Yep.
And it's stated many times in the series by characters like Sakura and Killer B that one can grow stronger through training, but even more so through battle. This is also supported by the canon storyline of Ninja Storm Generations, where before Minato could become Hokage, he first had to defeat Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Hiruzen in sparring matches, so there's definitely a lot to suggest he indeed got stronger. Regardless, it's even easier to prove Minato is capable of overwhelming Pain and speed during his time as the 4th Hokage, due to his encounter with Obito. During the fight, Minato clearly overwhelmed Obito and won the Battle of Speed, with the weekly manga and the 4th data book saying as much, speaking in context and pointing to the scenes where Obito wasn't able to keep up with Minato. Even if you want to use the earlier scenes where Minato was trying to figure out Kamui to argue Obito is around the same level of Minato in speed, that still means Minato is faster than Pain, seeing as we are directly told by him that Obito was a much greater threat
Exactly,
than Pain,
that's
and
what I
that
said.
Naruto would need
Yep.
to get KCM and grow even stronger after
Yep.
defeating Pain
Correct.
to fight Obito.
It's
And
direct
Minato saw
scaling right there for
everything
you.
Pain did during his fight with Naruto. Obito can also constantly be seen talking down to or about Pain, often regarding him as a pawn or underling he could deal with if he needed to.
Great point.
So ultimately, no matter which angle you look at it from or how skeptical you try to be, Minato is faster than Pain. He will dodge anything he would ever try to use and hit him or any of the paths before Nagato could even blink.
As for raw
Precisely.
power or how hard Minato and Pain hit, this is a much different story, and I think this would be a good time to go over the subject as it pertains to Minato in specific, as his specific level of power is something a lot of people find to be vague or unclear. As some of you may know, Minato was directly compared to Naruto's first successful uses of the Wind-style Rasen Shuriken in terms of just power, with Kakashi as well as the volume extras in the 3rd data book indicating Naruto was one of the few people capable of surpassing Minato. A lot of people will often make the assumption that this means base Minato is no more powerful than base Naruto prior to Sage training, but this leaves out the fact that Naruto needed some of Kurama's chakra for this Rasen Shuriken, and the fact that unlike Minato, Naruto can't completely withstand the counterforce of his own attack. As Tsunade states, Naruto's first Rasen Shuriken is so powerful that it damaged his arm when he used it, and he wasn't able to overcome his weakness like Minato had with his Rasengan until he completed his Sage training, which when he did complete, the 4th data book does say he got tougher. This would mean base Naruto doesn't truly approach Minato's level of strength until completing his Sage training and becoming tough enough to withstand the counterforce of his Rasen Shuriken. Surprisingly enough, while Pain has the edge in this category, he's not very far off from base Naruto and Minato in terms of raw power. A lot of people seem to miss this when discussing Naruto's fight with Pain, but while Pain was able to trade blows with base Naruto and even overpower him while using the Diva Pass abilities and Black Rods, he couldn't do the same to Sage Naruto and was consistently failing to damage him while getting destroyed by every single attack he hit him with. So this should mean while Pain would have an edge on Minato in raw power, Minato is still strong enough to go blow for blow with Pain, so physically they should both be able to hurt each other.
Right.
But when combined with the last speed portion, this really just becomes a pretty easy W for Minato. As always, I want to take some time to go over Minato and Nagato's abilities and explain how they factor into the battle. I'll start this section off with Minato again. As his moniker suggests, a lot of Minato's techniques revolve around his insane speed, but he is also extremely talented in basic shinobi skills like the Shadow Clone technique, which he has used on multiple occasions, the body flicker technique where he uses chakra to amplify his movement speed, and when doing so he's been shown to be the fastest of the first 4 Hokage, and he's even been compared to KCM2 Naruto in this regard, who can use his travel speed to keep up with Madara. Minato is also listed in the data books as a confirmed user of wind, lightning, and fire nature transformation, but he's rarely ever shown using any of these techniques. So while Minato is already moving blindingly fast with just the body flicker technique, his trademark jutsu, the Flying Thunder God technique, which allows him to teleport to targets or objects he's marked with a ceiling formula, the technique is a space-time ninjutsu that allows Minato to instantly teleport to his ceiling formulas, which he can place on a kunai or targets. No matter how far away he is, he can always get there. He's also so quick when using the technique that the data book calls it swiftness/quickness surpassing body flicker. And it says this is why many people like Rin confuse Minato's Flying Thunder God technique for body flicker. Minato was also so skilled with this jutsu that he was able to develop a number of derived jutsu from it, while also drastically improving the technique compared to how it looked when Tobirama first developed it.
Right.
With Flying Thunder God level 2, Minato can catch his enemies like Pain off guard by instantly using Flying Thunder God to take them by surprise and attack them from a blind spot, a strategy which would be incredibly effective against Pain or Nagato's linked vision. He can even take this a step further with techniques like Flash Hollow Dance, where he spawns the Shadow Clone and throws out 5 or more kunai to completely overwhelm the enemy. And while this technique has only been shown in the anime, it appears as if it would be effective in a fight against multiple opponents like Nagato and his summons or the 6 Paths of Pain. Also, Minato marking Pain directly with the ceiling formula would make it even easier to launch one of these attacks. Minato's other trademark jutsu is one so advanced that for many years he was the only shinobi who could use it, the Rasengan. The Rasengan is outright stated to be one of the most powerful techniques that doesn't require hand signs, according to the 4th data book, and Minato uses this jutsu by compressing and rotating his chakra into a sphere with his palm, similar to how the Biju form tail beast bombs. While Minato didn't have many opportunities to build on the technique, it can be argued he's still capable of using a few variants like the Big Ball Rasengan, based on the fact that we've seen him use Rasengan of similar size, and the Sage Art Rasengan, which he used during the War Arc. So while it may take a few times, Minato can absolutely beat up the Paths of Pain by using Rasengan.
For sure.
Minato also displays
That's a very
skill with
easy
other
deduction to
techniques
make.
he
Yeah, I agree.
presumably learned from Jiraiya, like the summoning technique in Sage Mode. With the summoning technique, Minato can summon powerful giant toads to assist him in battle like Gamabunta, the strongest of the boss toads. With just Gamabunta, he can easily hold off any of Nagato's Animal Path summons, like how Jiraiya did with just Gamaken, a weaker toad. While Minato isn't as skilled in this area as his son Naruto, he can also use Sage Mode, and unlike Jiraiya, he doesn't acquire any of the unnecessary amphibian-like traits or the need of help from toads to gather nature energy.
Right.
However, Minato does note during the war arc that he's not very confident in his skills as a sage and considers himself to be inexperienced with the ability. The duration of his Sage Mode is also pretty unimpressive, with Minato popping out of Sage Mode after just one Rasengan. However, some of the insecurity could be due to Minato's characteristic, humility, which often leads him to downplay his own achievements.
Right.
However, at the very least, this should mean it's incredibly unlikely that he'll use the ability. However, if he does, it would grant Minato with the general stat buff given to Sage Mode users according to Paw, as well as the data books, while also enhancing his existing techniques. This means if he really needs more power from his attacks to deal with pain, he can easily do so with the Sage Art Rasengan. Minato can also try to overwhelm the Predator Path with nature energy like how Naruto did, but it's very questionable if he can amass that much Sage Chakra. Another aspect of Minato's arsenal that often gets overlooked within the community that also would be of help to Minato here, especially against Edo Nagato, is his sealing jutsu. Minato was taught Uzumaki level sealing.
Yeah, he's actually
jutsu by
very
Kushina.
advanced in
These
Funjutsu.
techniques are said to be some of the most
Sealing
advanced in
jutsu.
the world.
Correct.
Minato even developed his skill with sealing jutsu to the point frequent opponents like A renowned him as being very talented in the area. Sealing jutsu is a type of ninjutsu that can be used to limit or stop the power of an enemy or an attack, and in many other cases outright seal them away within a number of places like the user and an object like a scroll or a kunai, something like that. These techniques are also the only known means of defeating an Edo Tensei Shinobi outside of Yin Yang release, so they'd absolutely come in handy against Edo Nagato.
Absolutely.
With his basic contract seals, Minato can strip targets of connections and abilities like he did to Obito and Kurama, so he could easily use some contract seals to cut off Nagato from the 6 Paths of Pain, which would immediately render them limp and useless.
That'd be
With
very
his
useful,
forcible
actually.
sealing, Minato can outright seal away large or powerful enemies. And he can even strengthen the seals by stacking them on top of each other to form the 8 trigram seal, which was powerful enough to seal away half the 9 tails inside Naruto. Minato could easily use his 4 symbol seals to get rid of Nagato, any of the Paths of Pains, or their summoning creatures, and if needed, he could obviously stack them to form the 8 symbol seal like I mentioned earlier. Minato's last and most powerful sealing jutsu is by far the Reaper Death Seal.
Of course.
With the Reaper Death Seal, Minato offers up his own soul in order to summon the God of Death to seal away a target of his choosing and him for all eternity. This technique can also be used to weaken targets that can be completely sealed away or can't be completely sealed away, like when Minato used it to split Kurama in 2 halves, or when Minato used it to steal Orochimaru's arms. While this technique also results in the death of the caster, it would still technically be a W for Minato, since his old soul would not be sealed away until after Nagato's has been.
Right.
Hiruzen also showed that it's possible to use this technique alongside shadow clones to increase the range. Ultimately though, I don't think Minato would end up using this unless he had no other option in this fight. His other techniques should be enough to seal away Edo Nagato, the Paths of Pain, or any of their summonings. So with all that being said, it's pretty clear Minato is extremely talented and a versatile shinobi, and when you combine his arsenal with his superior speed and relevant power, there's not too much Pain could do, no matter what form of Minato it is, really. With that out of the way, let's go over some of Nagato's abilities and how the fight would go against Edo Nagato. Nagato, as one of the last surviving members of the Uzumaki clan, naturally has very high reserves of chakra and stamina, which is what made Madara choose Nagato as a vessel for his Rinnegan in the first place. He was one of the few people who could tolerate both eyes, unlike Obito, who could only handle one before quote-unquote losing himself. Now this is just what it takes to own the Rinnegan, let alone use it. So while I do think Minato wins, I hope this section makes it very clear that I'm not downplaying Pain, and I don't think he's a weakling by any means. The Rinnegan is said many times to be the greatest of the 3 main ocular jutsu, and grants the user even crazier abilities than both the Sharingan and Byakugan. With it, Nagato was able to easily master all 7 basic nature transformations, along with any other technique he tried to learn. The Rinnegan also lets Nagato create black rods he can use for many different purposes, such as using them as melee weapons he can quickly draw from his sleeve and use them to stab the enemy and completely disrupt their chakra network.
He can also use these receivers to power the 6 paths of pain, 6 corpses Nagato can act through and cast his abilities through, basically like human puppets, but everybody already knew that. They all have the link vision and can create the black rods and see chakra. However, each path of pain can only use 1 out of the main 6 Rinnegan abilities. Like I just mentioned, the Rinnegan grants a group of 6 main abilities that are all incredibly broken and named after the different realms of reincarnation of Buddhism. The animal path, human, Naraka, Asura, and Diva paths. Each one of these paths of pain is also referred to by the respective ability they use. With the animal path, Nagato or one of his paths of pain can summon countless giant and strange creatures to assist him in battle, like his giant chameleon. The chameleon can turn invisible and protect him in his mouth if he so chooses, or grab targets with its invisible tongue. A giant crab that can secrete foam, a giant panda he can use as a shield, or a giant multi-headed dog that grows a head every time it takes damage.
Correct.
Since they're also embedded with the chakra receivers, the summons also extend the range and share Nagato and Pain's field of vision. While they serve as effective distractions, at the very least in most fights, as I said earlier, Minato could easily deal with them by summoning Gamabunta to assist him, or using any of his Uzumaki sealing techniques. So this ability wouldn't be very useful. And in case anyone tries to argue that summoning techniques bypass space and time because they're space-time ninjutsu, Minato's sealing jutsu have been directly shown to negate summoning techniques, such as whenever Madara tried to summon Kurama out of Naruto's seal, and all it did was hurt Naruto's stomach and he couldn't actually get Kurama out. With the Predator
That's a good observation, good point to negate that other counter. That's great. I agree.
Jutsu regardless of the chakra properties according to the 3rd data book, and we even see that he can spawn absorption barriers without moving a muscle and absorb attacks after being hit by them. So this would mean it would probably be a pretty annoying ability for Minato to deal with, and as I said before, it's highly unlikely he has the capacity of Sage Chakra necessary to overwhelm Nagato.
Right.
So if Minato wants to stop this from being used, he'll literally just have to take out the Predator path, and in the case of Edo Nagato, he'll just have to take out Nagato himself. The human path is pretty unremarkable. It is a dangerous ability. With it, he can remove the target's soul, instantly killing them. When it comes to pain though, the human path is just far too slow to be a threat to Minato. So in all honesty, he'd probably get taken out before he could do anything. And if Edo Nagato can't touch Minato, this would also render this ability completely useless.
Yep.
The Naraka path also lets Nagato summon the King of Hell and manipulate souls, but in a much more specific way, such as by extracting them if they lie in response to a question he asks. But its most useful application is its ability to heal the other paths of pain. Even if they've been completely incapacitated or destroyed, it can still bring them back. So while this ability would be almost useless offensively, if Minato wants to put Nagato or Pain down in a lasting way, he's gonna have to eventually take out the Naraka path. The Asura path is one of Nagato's more straightforward abilities, allowing him to summon futuristic armor that can take the shape of additional weapons, limbs, and even faces. It's a very good way to catch the opponent off guard while also overwhelming them. The Asura path, like the others, also has no way of actually touching Minato, and Minato can easily wind up in one of his blind spots when using FTG. So again, outside of utility, there's not much there for Nagato.
No,
Nagato's final main Rinnegan ability, the Diva path, is by far the most effective and most powerful path of pain. With the Diva path, Nagato and Pain can manipulate gravitational forces to a devastating effect with universal pull, which the 4th data book notes is unavoidable, like 3 different times. Pain can yank anyone toward him and even into other dangerous objects or attacks. With Almighty Push, Nagato can deflect anything away from him, and by focusing on this ability or the Diva path, he can use Chaotic Almighty Push, which covers a wide enough range to literally blast away an entire village. However, doing so often fatigues Nagato to a significant degree, so I don't think he would really use that on one person. With these abilities, he could definitely throw off Minato's position when flying around the battlefield, or that of his kunai. However, the Diva path of pain would most likely be far too slow to exploit Minato like this. The last ability Nagato can use to the Diva path, and by far the most dangerous ability, is his planetary devastation.
Of course.
Where you can create a gravitational core that attracts any surrounding matter to it, sealing and compressing it with lots of chakra. With this technique, Pain was able to restrain KM6 Naruto, or Six Tails Naruto, however you want to say it, even while Naruto was firing Biju bombs at it. Naruto eventually managed to break free by sprouting 2 more tails. However, Nagato noted he could still enlarge the technique, so maybe he could still have sealed 8-tailed Naruto. It should be noted this technique takes an extreme and immense toll on Nagato's body and rapidly shortens his lifespan with each use. Meaning, if it comes out, Nagato won't be far from just collapsing. I'll also say this, while it should be fairly obvious to most people, I'm not gonna sit here and try to say Minato could destroy the planetary devastation. He can't, but he could easily escape it with Flying Thunder God.
Right, he doesn't have the
and
AP, but he has the hacks to
This is also highly
negate
likely,
the danger.
as Minato often, whenever he hits an opponent, all the times we've been shown, decides to tag them with a Flying Raijin mark. So even if the Chibaku Tensei happens to suck up all of his kunai, he could still teleport to one of the pains he had marked before, or perhaps maybe a rock or somewhere that it actually didn't take the kunai from. When Nagato's stamina will be at its lowest, that's when Minato would attack again, and then at that point Nagato is done. So while Nagato does have a lot of insane abilities, Pain just wouldn't be strong or fast enough to use them to any leverages or get any advantages in this fight over Minato. Now, most of you probably know this by now, but I cannot stand this overrated, crippled Itachi victim. I feel like I've explained 1,000,001 times why Nagato isn't this Kage solo NPC or Madara Slayer that everyone uses fake Instagram quotes out of the anime to say he is. But since y'all wanted this so bad, I'll be a little generous today and go over what would happen if we swapped out Pain for Edo Nagato in this situation. While Nagato got more crippled basically and turned into an old man after dying, he grew much stronger after being revived with a body made of dust and limitless chakra in the place of his real emaciated physical body.
Right.
The weekly manga calling him one of Kabuto's most powerful assets alongside Edo Itachi, and noting that Nagato, Itachi, B, and Naruto were all among the top caliber of shinobi during this time in the 4th grade ninja war. He also displayed much better feats with his abilities than before, easily tossing around KCM Naruto with the Diva Path, as well as keeping up with V2 Killer B and absorbing his entire Chakra Coke in one go. Something Kisame couldn't even do with the aid of Asame Hara, so good feat. After using B's chakra to rejuvenate his body, Nagato completed himself according to the weekly release of the manga and got so much stronger, Naruto feared he was on a whole other level compared to before. He goes on to display even more insane feats, outspeeding KCM1 Naruto and Base B at multiple points, before almost defeating them if it wasn't for Itachi's timely intervention. His planetary devastation at this stage was also so strong that Itachi, Naruto, and B had to team up to destroy it. So once again, it'd be completely ridiculous to assert that Minato could do this by himself. So what does this change? Honestly, if you really find these showings impressive, then it's arguable he could overwhelm and snare Jonin Minato, just like he did KCM Naruto. However, Minato could easily escape him using Flying Thunder God, and is still more than capable of sealing him away. And I believe Hokage Minato with his body flicker, for the reasons I went over earlier, would just be way too fast for Nagato to keep up with.
Really?
So speed and sealing jutsu should make this a pretty clear Minato W. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video.
I want to
Minato has
definitely speak on
always been
that
one
at the
my
end of
favorite
this.
characters, and explaining why he runs through most of the verse never gets old. I'm never gonna get tired of it. If you guys want to see more like that, obviously
Great
make
video,
sure
6.
to
Great
like the
scaling,
video
great
and
logic.
subscribe. And you know, you can comment, tell me why I'm wrong. I don't mind it. I know that I take Minato's power to the next level. So if you think I'm wrong, I don't mind. Just leave a comment. And other than that, have a nice day.
All right, great video, 6 as always. All right, I want to get my thoughts immediately on the last little tangent that 6 went on. So Edo Nagato versus Minato. Right. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. And for the sake of just doing so, I'll say this. Casey-Mon Naruto is stated by the 4th Hokage to have surpassed his father in speed, right? When he was able to avoid A's fastest speed. Right? He was able to avoid it, and that's when the Hokage said, okay, you've surpassed your father. Right. Now, Edo Nagato, right, with this body that he now has as an Edo with infinite chakra, was bodying Casey-Mon Naruto and Killer Bee, who's relative to the 4th Hokage. He was bodying both of them and was about to kill them both simultaneously, keeping up with them, dealing with their AP, and overpowering them. Both individuals, not just Casey-Mon Naruto. Hence, you can make the argument, well, if A stated that Casey-Mon Naruto has surpassed his father in speed, and Edo Nagato is able to deal with his speed, then through transitivity, you could state and claim Edo Nagato would be faster than Jonin Minato, and possibly even Hokage Minato, which is more contentious because arguably he got stronger and faster, etc. Right? But Jonin Minato, you could claim that through transitivity if you use that and revere that statement made by the 4th Hokage in that feat itself, and then you revere Edo Nagato's feats against Casey-Mon Naruto and Killer Bee. That's an argument you could make for Edo Nagato. Now, as far as the 6 paths of pain, changing subject, which is what this video was mostly about, I do agree with 6. I do agree with 6. It was great scaling, right? The narrative implications, he pointed those out just like I did at the beginning of this video. Minato said the real threat is Obito, from which we could rationally deduce he's implying that Obito, the man with the orange mask, is superior to Pain, right? The same Pain that was able to contain 6-tail Naruto and up until 8-tail Naruto started to break out a little bit of the Shibaku Tensei, right? He was saying the man with the orange mask is the real threat, not this guy. Not that Pain is fodder, because clearly he's not, but Obito is superior to Pain, which makes sense narratively and rationally speaking, right? So that's a great narrative implication to make for Minato. Furthermore, Obito always referring to Pain as his subordinate, right, as someone below him, and then being kind of sarcastic when he got defeated to imply his superiority over Pain. He said, oh, the invincible Pain was defeated. Never thought I'd see the day. You know, he's kind of giving a backhanded compliment because he knows that he is the superior. He was the superior. He was the real leader of the Akatsuki, right? He was the one pulling the strings. Pain was just the placeholder for the leader of the Akatsuki, right? So there are narrative implications that are clear as day that any unbiased and objective individual will acknowledge when trying to assess this matchup. And I'm glad 6 brought those up. Those are very good narrative implications to make, right? And now if you look at the Naruto fight against Pain, we can deduce how Minato would do, right? We see base Naruto able to somewhat contend with the Diva Path to some extent, right? Specifically at the end of the Pain fight when he is able to stop the rampage of the Ninetales and he's giving his very last effort to defeat Pain with his shadow clones and things of that nature. They're both fatigued to a high extent at this point, and he is competing with the Diva Path, right? With base Naruto clearly not being on the level of Minato in base, and 6 making the good argument that it wasn't until him attaining Sage Mode where his AP probably surpassed that of his father's, right? And his toughness, his durability as well. Right, the Rasen Shuriken is something that the 4th Hokage couldn't even have mastered. When Naruto first mastered it, he had trouble even wielding the power itself. It took him a while to wield it. Right, so AP isn't something that Naruto blows Minato out of the water with. It's relative enough. And it wasn't until Sage Mode where you can safely say he surpassed his father as far as power is concerned. Right, and even that competed with the Diva Path very well. In fact, it was overpowering the Path to Pain. He was beating down the weaker ones and competing with the Diva Path. And even arguably having the upper hand as far as speed and taijutsu exchange. It was because of the Diva Path's power later on that Sage Mode Naruto was defeated, right? And he had to go on a rampage to have a chance, right? But I think 6 made a good case for at least Minato having relative power to that Naruto and that version of the 6 Paths to Pain. Now that's probably the most contentious part, to be fair, right? That's the most contentious part of the whole shabacle here, is the AP. But then again, like 6 said, it's the speed and the sealing jutsu that would be the most essential to Minato anyway. And I think with his Rasengan, being able to damage someone the caliber of Obito, who had Zetsu amping his durability clearly, it's safe to say that a couple of Rasengans from him would definitely damage the weaker Paths of Pain, no doubt about that. I mean, Konohamaru at fucking 13 years old or whatever was able to fuck up and destroy one of the paths and put it out of commission, right? So Minato's Rasengan will definitely do the job, and most definitely would damage any of the Paths of Pain, including the Diva Path. So he has the AP to do what has to be done, and of course he has a speed advantage. Right? He most definitely has a speed advantage, no doubt, against the 6 Paths of Pain. They don't scale to the speeds of the 4th Raikage. Now, a specific counter I'd like to address, that I would like to counter actually, is when people say that Naruto in Sage Mode has better reaction times than Naruto using KCM1 because he stated it. Right? It's not that simple. Here's why. 1, he didn't use Sage Mode to react to the 4th Raikage. He used KCM1. That's what he reacted to the full speed of the 4th Raikage with, not Sage Mode. That's 1. Number 2, he could have just been specifically talking about the specific situation taking place when he stated that when he was facing the 3rd Raikage. Maybe that was the optimal ability to use. And you can make some rational deduction as to why that is. You can simply say, well, he had several clones on the battlefield. You know, he had less chakra to utilize. So simply put, it would be optimal to use Sage Mode against the 3rd Raikage at this specific point in time against a specific opponent. Because if Sage Mode had better reaction times, then why wouldn't he have used it against the 4th Raikage when he was going at his full speed? Why didn't he do that? That's the best counter to the counter of, well, he said Sage Mode had better reaction times. No, it doesn't. Maybe in that specific situation, it'd be optimal to use Sage Mode here. And maybe because of the certain parameters that have been established in a specific situation at the specific point in time, maybe it does have better reaction times at this specific point in time. Because he can use less chakra, or he can just gather nature energy. Maybe his chakra was low. There were some implications of that. There was. Right, so it's not as simple as Sage Mode has better reaction times than KCM1. No. Because he would have used that more in many situations, such as against Edo Nagato as well. Reacting to Nagato. He would have deduced, if we're revering that statement, he would have deduced, oh man, I'm having a hard time keeping up with Nagato, and he's keeping up with me, so I have to use Sage Mode to react to him. He didn't do that. Again, and he didn't do it against the 4th Raikage, like I said. So, Minato is above Sage Mode as far as reaction times, as far as overall speed, and arguably even over KCM1. Because you could argue that the 4th Raikage, despite the defeat that was accomplished by Naruto, didn't have killer intent. I believe there's a better argument that he had killer intent against Minato during the 3rd Great Ninja War. Right? I think there's a better argument for that, to be quite honest. Again, that's headcanon as well, but overall, the point is, 6 scaling and irrational deductions were very good. Very good. And he picked the deductions with the highest probable possibility. Right? Minato being faster than Sage Mode. There's great empirical evidence to suggest that, and not the antithesis of that. There's not much to suggest that Minato is inferior to Pain in terms of speed. There isn't much for that at all. The very fact that the 4th Raikage stated as the fastest shinobi on Earth before KCM1 Naruto and after Minato's death implies that he's the fastest and not Pain. And Minato was faster than him as a Jonin. Right? So we got to look at the empirical evidence provided and not simply speculate because of established lore or bias that we have for Pain, which a lot of people do. Great video by 6, great scaling, like I said, and great logical deductions. I agree with him pretty much on everything besides the Edo point. Right, like I said, Edo Nagato, there's a great argument that he's faster than Minato because he was able to manhandle KC1 Naruto and Killer Beast simultaneously. So you can make an argument that, yeah, he is faster than Minato. Because when we're making a deduction here, we kind of have to make a quantitative analysis and deduce who has the speed advantage, right? We can't really quantify the speeds here. We can simply look at the feats that have been accomplished. We look at Minato's feats. We look at the statements stated, right? The fourth Hokage, who states that KCM on Naruto's speed is above that of his father's now. But again, you could use the counter that I used to that previously and say, well, he didn't have killer intent here. His analysis could be miscalculated. But I would say he would know better than anyone. I mean, he had a face-to-face encounter with both, right? So there's arguments for Edo Nagato being faster than Jonin Minato, bare minimum, because that's who the fourth Hokage had an interaction with. Now, Hokage Minato is an argument that he's faster, and it'd be more contentious to say Edo Nagato is faster than him, to be quite honest. And then Edo Minato just washes Edo Nagato, or any version of Nagato for that matter. He destroys all of them in that mode. He has KCM. I mean, he's infinite chakra. Can probably spam Flying Raijin infinitely. It'd be a wash, right? He would dominate any version of Pain or Nagato for that matter. But yeah, folks, that's my thoughts on this and my thoughts in general on the whole topic of Minato versus Pain. It's an interesting topic, but I think it's safe to conclude and claim that Minato defeats Pain and or Nagato in the vast instances and possibilities. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it, folks, and it's an interesting topic and tangent to go on, but I think it's safe to conclude and claim that Minato defeats Pain, no matter what version of Minato we're discussing here, Jonin or above. He defeats all versions of the six paths of Pain, clearly and handily, more than likely with the empirical evidence provided, right? And then against Edo Nagato, it's quite contentious, right? Quite contentious if we're talking about Jonin Minato specifically. So that's my final thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I know there's probably people on the Pain side, and I'm still intrigued to hear your guys' thoughts. Maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think 6 is wrong. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below. I do read all the comments. That's going to wrap it up, folks, and I'll catch you in the next one. It's Jay the Great signing out. Peace.